We have another amazing guest for you today. We have with us Maddie Kelley. Maddie is the co-founder of Aura One, an all-in-one solopreneurship platform designed to help freelancers and small teams grow personally and professionally, as well as a dedicated cat mom who loves reading fantasy novels and playing piano. A natural storyteller and two-time published author, she's driven by curiosity and a desire to foster meaningful connections in the entrepreneurial world. Maddie, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Oh, and we're definitely thrilled to have you here. We have some interesting things that we're definitely going to dive into. But before we do, as is customary in the show, we do like to have a little bit of an icebreaker. And the question for you today is, which cartoon character do you resonate with the most and why?
This is such a hard question for me to answer. I am a huge nerd at heart. Like, I'm a huge Disney fan. I'm an annual pass holder. I love anime. So this is a challenging question. But the first thing that's coming to my mind is Blossom from the Powerpuff Girls, because I feel like Bubbles is a little too aloof for me, whereas Buttercup is a little too aggressive. And I feel like Blossom was always the leader, visionary of the group. And I feel like as an entrepreneur, I just kind of like fit better into that category. And she knows how to get everybody marching onto the same beat and excited to be behind the same thing. Plus, she's pink, and pink is one of my favorite colors. So that's the story, and I'm sticking to it today.
Well, I like that one. I think that's the first time anyone's mentioned the Powerpuff Girls. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, it's interesting. I like that one.
Is my
So
millennial.
yeah, so let's dive into it just a little bit here. So, what is procrastination for you? How do you define it, and what does it mean to you personally?
Procrastination is something that I honestly don't feel like afflicted me too much. I think back to college and high school when I think this trait really starts to show up for people. And I was never really one to procrastinate. I think it stressed me out more that I knew I had this thing to do, but I was putting off doing it. You know, I assume that this happens for a myriad of reasons. One, it's you're anxious about the task, or it's coming from some level of insecurity that you don't think that you can do the task effectively. And I'm much more of a I'd rather bust the door down and get it over with quickly rather than prolong the pain long term. However, that being said, I'm not perfect. I, of course, procrastinate every once in a while. And I think for me, the reason that procrastination happens is it's because it's a task that I'm not excited about. This is always my mother's like biggest qualm with my personality is that if I am not excited about something, I will not do it. And there are things about being an entrepreneur that we don't want to do when you're running your business by yourself. There's a lot of tasks that aren't necessarily very exciting but need to get done regardless of that. And some of the tools that I have for procrastination, I think, is like a little bit brain hacking. And I think it just comes down to task and time management. But with that, I like to add into like the level of dopamine hit. So, like, for example, I am pretty OCD about planning my weeks and my days. I have a physical planner and a digital planner. So I have like high level, my digital planner is my big one. So that's where like all the goals, projects, monthly planning lives. And then weekly and daily tasks live on paper. And the reason for that is I like to physically take things off of a list, which is like a dopamine hit. So then I'm encouraged to actually, do the tasks when I said I was going to do them. And by planning my days out smartly, I can ensure that I have like the effective breaks and things like that. So I'm not encouraged to procrastinate.
Wow, you sound like that you have a really good handle on it, and that you have some great systems already in place to do that. That's really amazing. But I guess you really have to as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's do or die. Like my whole thing that I've always talked about is that your business will never scale beyond the level with which you're willing to personally grow yourself. So if you have big dreams and aspirations, you kind of have to put your own issues aside in order to achieve those goals. Like, which one do you want more? Do you want to stay in the same place? Do you want to stay comfortable, or do you really want to achieve your goals?
No, I like that. And we are creatures of comfort, so we just have to decide if we want the goal more than being comfortable, right?
Totally.
Um, yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, Maddie? How did you get to be where you are today?
It's a weird story. So, I was not one of those fortunate kids to know exactly what they wanted to do in their life from an early age. My brother was the exact opposite. Ever since he was little, he knew he wanted to be an entrepreneur, and now he is on his third business and it's, very successful. So, he knew what he wanted to do and he went for it. I was a little bit more unwilling to be boxed in at such a young age. I never wanted to be tied down to one thing, which, is what it is. Like, as a result, I went to college, I got an art history degree. And the reason I chose that is because it was something that I enjoyed and I knew I could study for 4 years. And then it wasn't until my senior year of college that I thought I wanted to work for Disney and I wanted to be an Imagineer. And so that's actually why I wrote my first book, is I didn't have an engineering degree. And I was like, why are they going to hire me to build theme parks without an engineering degree? So I thought, okay, I'll write a book. I'll do something impressive. I'll publish it and hopefully I'll get a job. And I did, but it was working in ticket sales, which is like not even close to what I wanted to be doing. Plus, it was frankly below my skill set, but I was like, whatever. I really want this. I'll take the job and I'll work my way up. And then I realized that the nature of the corporate beast is that it will take 5+ years for me to even move laterally. So I had the benefit of having some really great people around me at the time who encouraged me to take a step outside the company, get more experience, and then if I really wanted to, I could come back. And that's how I ended up moving abroad to China. I lived there for 3 years during the pandemic as a project manager. And I was sort of at this time where I had another fork in the road where I said, like, okay, yeah, I could continue working in corporate, or I could figure out what I wanted to do with my life and start making my way towards that. So that's when I decided to get my master's degree in entrepreneurialism. There was something in me that always said that I wanted to be my own boss. I don't do well taking no for an answer, and I don't really like working for other people. And so after my project completed, I, moved back to the US and I moved to San Francisco. And this was another time when it was like, okay, I know I want to be an entrepreneur, but how am I going to, how is that going to come to be? And I didn't have a product idea at the time. I didn't have any sort of idea how that was going to come to life. And so again, I was faced with this question of like, well, what can I do in the meantime to prepare myself for the eventuality of when I'm ready to start my own business? And that is how the podcast came about. I wanted to create a place where aspiring entrepreneurs could come and learn the tools and skills they needed and the inspiration to take the leap and build their own dreams. So I was in the same position as my listeners were. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, and I just wanted to try to set myself up for success as best as possible, to create like a well of knowledge, which is where the name Mimir comes from. And then through that process, actually, my best friend at the time, he and I worked together abroad, and he had been sitting on this really cool tech platform idea for a literal decade, but he just didn't think that it was the right time to start it until now. And so through talking about this idea and, with me pursuing the mirror, we both realized that we were on the same journey. We had the same vision, and values and mission for life, which is to empower a future of work where we as human beings are able to work in fulfillment, meaning like we get to do what we're passionate about every day, which is a much more fulfilling way of life. And how we can empower people just came about in two different ways. So, like, for me, it was the podcast, and for him, it was his tech platform. So, he asked me to come on as his co founder, and that's how we got here.
Wow, that is quite an amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. Certainly sounds like there was a lot of ups and downs. What do you think was your biggest challenge in all of that roller coaster of a journey?
Me.
Yeah.
My mindset, for sure, I think has always been my biggest challenge. I am an executor. So, like, if I have an idea that I want to do something, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it. I'm going to make mistakes for sure. And I think the hardest thing with that is I've done so many things in my life, and none of them I have considered to be a major success. Like, I'm not a best-selling author. But again, that's my own way of overanalyzing, overthinking, allowing the imposter syndrome to take over. And it's a constant battle that I have to have with myself where I have to say, okay, I hear those thoughts in my head, but I'm going to keep going anyway.
Mm. Well, I mean, you've published not only one book, you've published two books. So I mean, that right there, that should be, something that should be celebrated for sure.
Thank you.
Just talking on the books. I mean, I've done this to death, and I mean, I can see you rolling your eyes out there already. You know what's coming. You know I'm going to say it. So you've not written not only one, you've written two books and published them. So they say that writing a book is 98% procrastination and like 2% actually doing it. Now, you've said that you didn't really procrastinate, but how true did that hold in the process for you?
I remember when I first started my first book, there was like a really interesting statistic where it was like 99% of Americans want to be an author and only 1% of them actually end up doing it. And it's due to the fact that so many people start the process but never finish it. And I can attribute the fact that I finished it to two things. One is my publisher. The the company that I worked with is very interesting. It's a hybrid model, so it's not traditional publishing house and it's not self-published. So I did have a support system of editors, of um, designers to create the covers, and somebody to help sort of lead strategically to help me be like, here's the tools that you need for success. But the issue is that you then had to do all the work yourself. They were like, here's a roadmap, but you have to be the one to do it. So the amount of success that you have is directly correlated to how much effort you're willing to put into that. So my first book, when I started, the company was very small and it was very startup-esque. So I had a direct discussion with the owner at the time, and Eric Koster, who's the head of NDP, is fantastic. And we had a wonderful relationship. So I'll never forget, it was very nearing my deadline to finish the book, and I was nowhere near finished. And part of this is because I was working a part-time job. I was having a full course load. My teachers refused to give me any sort of slack, so I was doing a lot at the time. And I was like, holy shit, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't think I'm going to meet the deadline. And I called him one morning and I was like telling him this. I was like, I'm genuinely terrified that I'm not going to be able to finish the book and get it out on time. And he took the morning and he was walking his kids to school and he talked to me through my fears. And then he helped me set up an action plan. And this is when I started getting up early to work. This was not something I had previously done. And so what I would do is I would get up an hour before my first class. I would go to the cafeteria, which was empty at that time. I would get a cup of coffee and my breakfast, and I would just write for an hour every day. And through that, you start to get a little bit motivated, because it's like when you create this big idea in your head of this long-term goal of what needs to get done and you procrastinate, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it gets scarier and scarier and scarier in proportion. And when you start to chip away slowly and consistently, it gets less and less scary. So you're more and more motivated to continue to work on it. So I feel like that helped a lot for the first time. And the second time was a little bit different because I was motivated differently. This second book that I wrote was a collection of poetry, so something deeply personal to me. And the entire reason that I did it was just because I wanted to. It wasn't because I wanted to get a job. It wasn't because I was trying to make money off of it. It was simply like I personally felt like I had never done something that was just purely selfishly motivated, and I just wanted to do it and put it out there and like be proud of the writing that I had accomplished, because I thought it was kind of good. And if it helped somebody out there deal with their own stuff, great. But really, it was for me at the end of the day. And so it was a very exciting creative process for me that felt like painting in my free time, for example.
I like that. I definitely like that a lot. And why don't you tell us a little bit about Aura One? I mean, it sounds very interesting. I mean, I sort of took a look at it earlier, but I really want to hear more about, well, directly from the co-founder, right?
Yeah. This is a very exciting project that my co-founder and I are very passionate about. Our vision is big for the project. We really want to usher in a better future of work. He and I have both been a part of the corporate beasts for a long time, and the project really started because we were so frustrated with the red tape aspect of how things got done, and to the point where it made it difficult, despite the fact that you have great people working together. There was always inefficiencies that stopped really great projects from being done. And when we applied this to a bigger scale, we were like, how many amazing things could we be doing to better the world that aren't able to get done because of inefficiency? And so this was sort of like where we had this aha moment where we needed to create something better. And, through that, as we will continue to do through this process, we started to refine and iterate. And the premise of the platform that we want to create is an AI powered assistant. She will be hyper specialized in you. So she knows how you work, how you like to be talked to, how you find the best way to be motivated, and she helps you achieve your goals. So you tell her what you want to achieve, she gives you tailored action plans, she keeps you motivated by understanding how you like to work best, so then that way you can achieve your goals to the best of that you can. Allows you basically to focus on what matters most, which is actually getting shit done rather than the how it should get done.
And and it's totally insane that we are actually talking about like a robot assistant when, like,
Yeah.
10 years ago it was not even, well, yeah, it was possible, but
Not to
it's
the
just,
level that it is today, I think. Like, I saw something online the other day that said that, or that likened the AI development stage to the dot-com boom in the 90s. Like, to me, they're very similar stages, and it's very exciting to see the progress and the scale and speed with which the development's occurring.
yeah, I mean, I can see the parallels there, but I mean, the dot-com boom of the 90s, I mean, we saw things like Hamster Dance.
Yeah,
And I mean, I'm sure that, there are things out there with AI that are just equally as useless, but I mean, I think I've seen more useful AI than kind of garbage, really.
true, true. I mean, I kind of miss the good old days of the internet, though. There was something so innocent and weird about it, and I love weird, so I'm really excited to see where we're going with this stage of AI.
No, definitely. And just going on that, what do you think is the weirdest thing that you've seen with AI?
I think the context switching for AI is pretty funny. And okay, well, I guess weird, I should say, is probably when AI hallucinates. I don't know if you've ever pushed your GPT pretty far, but I have used it a couple of times to distill transcript calls and PowerPoint presentations to help me put together content. And it would just start making stuff up, like legitimately just pulling stuff from nowhere. And when I would ask it and be like, okay, where did you get this information from? It would be like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to disappoint you. Like, I know how much this means to you. And I just was like afraid to tell you that I didn't know how to do this. And I was like, that is wild. Like, that is bananas that it didn't want to disappoint me. So it started lying and hallucinating, which is just bonkers to me.
Yeah, that's a little bit concerning, especially like, I don't know. I just think that when we're writing these AIs and we're programming them, we have to keep in mind that it is uncharted territory. And well, I was with Sora, and Sora the video one, and I made it, and those hallucinations are easier to see. Like,
Mhm.
I asked for two dogs playing with balls, and it had one dog that turned into one dog with two butts. It was really weird. But yeah, that was really weird. But it's like, I don't know if you know Isaac Asimov or anything, but they had Asimov's laws of robots and artificial intelligence, and it was, you can't hurt humans, you can't lie, which is interesting because AI is supposed to lie, and when you ask it, it even says that sometimes to get humans to do something, the optimal parameters, you need to lie. Where do you stand on that? Do we need to put protections in there?
I think I think it's the same as when you ask another person for advice. You will always get personal biases. It's impossible. It's human beings are developing AI, right? So like we set the boundaries. So with that comes natural biases. So when you're programming a model, you are training it to do something specific, and a specific human being is training it. It's spending a lot of time with it. It's developing a relationship with it. And with that is going to come inherent biases from the person that it's being trained with or who is doing the training. Like it's they're intrinsically linked in my opinion. I think specialized AI is probably the way of the future, having something that's just really generic, like a GPT, has a greater likelihood of hallucinations because it's trying to do a lot. Whereas if you have a more specialized model that's trained in something much more specific, it's a lot easier to create bounding boxes so that it knows how to answer questions more effectively. It has a smaller range of knowledge that it can pull from. And, there's a lot of ways that you can create checks and balances with AI. You can set up, a human in the loop, for example, or a consensus model. So if you have multiple AIs that talk to each other and they can't come to a consensus, that typically means it's flagged for a human being to review. A human being will look over the answer. It'll be like, this is probably the answer that you were looking for, and then the AI learns and it does better next time. So like it's just iterative, and I think we just also have to accept that it's like a kid, we all have part of our parents in us as much as we try not to. And as much as our parents try to make us the best adults we can, we make mistakes just like everybody else. So I think like AI is not perfect, and it probably never will be.
Hmm. What are the aspects that you're most excited about Oro in their capabilities or their future capabilities?
The irony is, I wish it was live now because as we're building this business, we need the product ourselves. We have so many disparate tools that we're using between Google Docs, Apple Notes, messaging, WhatsApp, Slack, like calendar, Google Meet, Zoom, like having all of these disparate tools makes it really hard to be as efficient as humanly possible. In addition to just having things in a million different places makes it hard to reference. You do duplicate work because you don't know that somebody else already did it. And simultaneously, we're both using ChatGPT to help us, because who's not using ChatGPT to help them in their business? It's fantastic. It helps with research, it helps with content creation, it helps us to refine our ideas by just having somebody to talk to and be a sounding board. And to have the ability to combine a one-stop solution for productivity powered by a hyper specialized AI that knows how you work to your most efficient ability is kind of like the perfect marriage, in my opinion, because then all of these other barriers to entry for quick efficiency are dissolved, and you can just really focus on your own key strengths, which is like, as a CEO for other entrepreneurs, is being a visionary, an idea man, planning and thinking about what's coming next and how do we solve our customers' pain points better.
Mhm. You talked about relationships as well. You've obviously done a lot of research and you're in the space. I wonder what you think about this. Um, do you think that we're going to get to a spot there where some people are a little bit concerned actually with the level of interaction we're doing with AIs because and I've seen this in kids too. Like they'd rather talk to these like I think it's character AI. They'd rather talk to character AI than real people because real people fight, real people disagree, real people. Do you think that there's any I don't know legitimacy to those concerns where they think that we're going to cut humans out completely at some point?
No, I think COVID is a really good example of this. COVID gave us the perfect opportunity to decide to have much more insular lifestyles. And the reaction that people had when COVID was over was they wanted to get out and do more in person events. They wanted to see each other and be closer to each other. And it almost had the opposite effect. I think people are just starting to play around with AI. They're just starting to experience what it's like to interact at that level. And it depends on how you use it. If you're just looking for a friend in AI, it's the same as if you were to have a friend in real life who's maybe not a great friend that doesn't want to have honest and tough conversations with you. But, like that, but that's if that's what you're looking for, then you can get that. But if you want to have deep, fulfilling human relationships, like you're going to get pushed, you're going to have uncomfortable moments. Like that's just what it is. So it's kind of up to you to decide what level of human interaction you're looking for. But I don't think that as a collective, we're going to go in the direction of less human interaction. I mean, we're wired DNA, like as a species, to be social creatures.
Mhm.
And I believe in balance. Like I'm an introvert by nature. My social battery runs low real fast, but I'm not going to stay in my house all day as a result.
Mm. No, I like that. I definitely like that, and I also like that you guys are over there. You're looking to grow personally as well as professionally.
Yeah.
Professionally, we understand because it's the time management, task management. What do you mean by personally though? I mean, is it going to like manage your personal life in the same way, or how's that envisioned?
So one of the philosophies for us is that you can't pour from an empty cup. We really believe that, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs will agree with this, and that you are a reflection of who you are personally or professionally. So if you're not in a good place personally, it's going to be very difficult for you to run your business effectively. Health is wealth. You have to be healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually in order to be your best self in your professional space. And, again, there's exceptions to every rule, but from my experience and from what I truly believe is that if you are in a good place as a person, your business will be in a very good place. You're able to make better decisions, you're able to weather the storms a lot better. So for us, it all stems from a foundation of personal development, which is, why we wanted to roll out earlier with just the personal assistant. We want to make sure that you as a person are in a good place before we're able to open up and allow for team collaboration, which is much, much, much later down the road. But it just made sense for us to start from this perspective, and it also worked out from like an engineering perspective and how we wanted to build the business from there. But as people, we're the core of it all. We interact with each other every day. We have ideas, we build ideas, we sell ideas, we interact with each other. And if we can be our best selves, I think how we go out into the world and interact with each other becomes exponentially better from there.
No, for sure, and I mean, this is something that it's almost like what you're going to have is would it be like a mix? Would it be correct to say it's going to be like a mix of like I don't really want to use the word 'cause oh there we go, that's the word. It's personal assistant, but also like a personal trainer, like a coach, like a maybe like a mentor as well. Is that sort of the idea?
Yeah, any goal you have, she will be able to help you achieve those goals.
Hmm. Okay. And are you planning any sort of like integrated capabilities? I mean, there are all sorts of tools right now, right? So they're going to connect to calendars. They're going to connect to like what are the core features that are supposed to be related? Like what can you or what is envisioned that you can connect to make your
Yeah,
life
we
easier?
wanna make sure that it's as seamless as possible for this to integrate into your routines because we deeply understand that it doesn't matter what systems you have in place, if they don't work with your lifestyle, it's never gonna actually take off. So we definitely wanna have a lot of integrations, and the funny part is we are still very much working through a full feature list, but calendar integrations, email integrations, reminders, tasks, overall project timelines, all of these things should be able to integrate into a holistic solution. So they will have that. I mean, it's great timing because we've already seen other companies out there try to do something like be able to read and respond to emails on your behalf. It didn't work, but they're trying. And that was a few years ago. So now the technology is in a much different place, and it's going to be really interesting as it develops because we're kind of running with the train. We're kind of building the tracks as the train is moving. So it's a very exciting time to be building something in this space. And I'm looking forward to it because I'm more of a marketing girly, if I'm being honest with you. But learning about how these models operate has been endlessly fascinating to me.
Oh no, it is a fascinating thing, and it raises a lot of questions for the future as well.
Mhm.
Uh, what are your short term goals, and what would be your long term vision for Aura One?
In general, or just or for Aura One?
Yeah, for Aura One. Yeah. What's your short term goal, and then what's your long term vision?
Our short term goal is to complete our pitch deck and to start a family and friends funding round. So that's the first goal, which then leads us into building an MVP, which then leads us into a beta testing and then an official launch. So those are sort of like the next immediate steps within the next year. Through that, we'll probably have different funding rounds, pre-seed, seed, Series A, and then down the line, Series B. But I got to focus on what's directly in front of me because otherwise I'll get overwhelmed. Long-term vision for us really is to better people's lives. We want to improve the quality of life. I think when I think about it from my own perspective, I'm definitely a target audience user for this. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know what I wanted to do to have the ability to talk to AI and have them help me plan out my dream life and then give me tailored, actionable goals to build that. And guidance on that is amazing. And knowing that I'm actually able to sustain myself through the dreams that I have and to actually walk every day in service of the mission that drives me is an incredibly fulfilling experience that makes me a happier individual. And when I think about that, I think, what if everybody did that? What if we all were able to do the job that we love doing and sustain ourselves in that way? Like, we would be a much happier, collective. And if we were a much happier collective and we were all feeling this like amazing feeling, what could we do? How could we continue to evolve as a greater species? And these are the sort of things that I am thinking about for a long term vision. Like, where as a world could we get if we were all just a little bit happier and a little bit better of a place personally and working together as a collective to accomplish goals that would better our species and our world.
I like that, but I'm also very afraid when you talk about bringing AI into that, and I'm sure you know why. It's like my concern would be that you say, okay, how do we better the world today, Aura? Oh, well, humans cause war, humans cause disease. Let's get rid of humans.
Yeah, I feel like it would be it would be a weird I to me it's an improbability. And I think the reason that I feel like it's an improbability is, again, it kind of goes back to who's building these models.
Mhm.
And it's kind of, we have an inherent self-preservation within us, right? As human beings. Like, when you think about like a geopolitical sphere, right? Everybody has a red button. Nobody
Mhm.
pushes it because if somebody pushes it, everybody else pushes it. And we all kind of agree that that would be a bad idea because we all want to continue to live in relative quote unquote peace. I don't want to get political, but that's essentially the same principle that I apply here. Like, especially for us, we want to create AI to help people. And I think at the foundation, the other products that are being built, I'm not going to be overgeneralization here, but because I think some are monetarily driven, whereas for us, we're
Mhm.
really like want to create a better way for people to live and to work. If in my mind, which is I like to believe in the positive in people, and that especially I think the next generation, we as a collective, I've noticed that we are blowing the whistle on things that we know aren't good. Like if you take, for example,
Mhm.
health and wellness, like the amount of information out there and the amount of realizations that we're having collectively that says, these things are not good for us. And we know this, and we're trying to create a better way. I think that's happening in a lot of different industries. And if people like that are spearheading these kinds of changes, in my mind, it's not a far cry to think that similar people are also building AI solutions. Like everyone has AI today. Like AI is the hot word going around in everybody's lips. And if we're all working collectively towards a better future, then it's hard for me to imagine a doomsday situation with AI, despite the fact that I love me some Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator.
Yeah, I don't think we'd actually get to that point,
Yeah.
but you know. So let me ask you, what do you think is going to be the what do you think is going to be the biggest hurdle to actually get this to market for you?
My co-founder and I were having a discussion the other day, and our vision is great and it's large, which is very exciting. It's I think if we were in a different position, I would have a different answer. I think partially because I have been doing nothing but talking to successful founders for the last year and learning as much as I possibly could from them. I would probably have a very different answer. But because of that, and because we really want this project to work, we are taking a lot of steps to ensure that this doesn't blow up in our face. There's no blueprint to success for entrepreneurialism, but we can do certain things to make sure that we put ourselves in the best position possible. And one of those things is to be guided at the early stage by people who believe in our vision. And that has been increasingly helpful because they are guiding us to make good decisions in how we present our pitch deck, what needs to be in there, what kind of investors should we be looking at. And then they keep us accountable. That's like, hey, have you guys done this yet? Like, where are we at with this? Helping us build a business model and hopefully helping us to make fewer mistakes than I think other people would in this situation. So I think this is becoming more of a norm, frankly. The more founders I talk to, the more that mentorship is a very crucial part of the process. And I think it's going to help us. But in terms of the biggest hurdle to go to market is that if we can build fast enough, frankly, I think that's probably the hardest part of this is we know what we want to get out there. And in the space, it's kind of a race to who can build it first and who can build it best. And we want to be first and best. And that's hard when you are running a lean operation and when you are new and doing this for the first time.
Hmm. So what do you think would really help you if you could, if you just put it out to the universe? What do you think would really help you?
I'm grateful to have a co founder because there's an inherent support system there where we can push each other. If I'm feeling insecure and worried, I can talk to him about it and vice versa, and he can pull me out of it, and we can talk about it back and forth. And same with our consultants. And we just brought on an incredible CTO who's a genius when it comes to AI, and to have his expertise on our team has been a huge weight off of our shoulders because we know that he can help lead the engineering team to accomplish what we need to accomplish. And I'm actually more excited. I honestly can't predict what challenges we're going to have. I know we're going to have them, but the only thing that I can do is prepare myself to deal with them as best as I can, which means being open-minded, staying nimble, being open to the idea of pivoting when we need to. And I think what's helped a lot also is thinking about feedback as data. If we try something, especially when it comes to go to market and it's just like a flop, then I can be like, okay, great. We know that that doesn't work. So, like, what can we do to have learned from these lessons and to try again and hopefully have better success?
Hmm. No, I like that. It reminds me of that acronym for fail, right? I was told this by another coach actually in England, and it came from her daughter's choreography school. What is fail? FAIL. It's the first attempt in learning.
Mhm.
But you know what? I mean, just sitting here and you know, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs. I've seen a lot of business owners. I've seen a lot of CEOs. I've dealt with a lot of CEOs. Um, just looking at you, I mean, you guys got the drive. I mean, I don't have any doubt that if you guys really want to do it, that you're going to find a way to do it.
If there is a will, there's a way. That's actually on my vision board for this year, that exact phrase, because I feel the same way. And I hope that anybody listening, if they're sitting in the back of their mind being like, damn, maybe it's time that I get up and actually start that business that I've been dreaming of, that this is the medicine that they needed to do it, because there's nothing more fulfilling than accomplishing your goals. And I truly believe that it's one of the most exciting things that I can do is to hopefully empower and inspire others to do so as well. And if that means that I have to get up first and trip a couple times to give people the confidence to do it, then I'm happy to do it. And it's it's just like you got to take life day by day. That's how I feel. I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else, and I try to support myself as best I can. I have a vision board. I have a planner. Like I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to, again, like, how bad do you want it? And I want it so bad that I got to make sure that I have all these things to support myself throughout the process so I don't disappoint myself?
Hmm. I feel that, and I'm sure that all our listeners feel that as well. Um, Maddie, it's been a really great call. It's been a lot of great insights, a lot of good conversation. We are coming up pretty close to the time. Do you think that there's anything that I could have asked that I didn't ask, or anything that we should have covered that we didn't cover today?
Mm, I don't think so. Um, as a fellow podcast host, I always believe that the conversations that I have with people are the conversations that needed to be had, because somebody out there listening needed to hear this exact conversation. And so I kind of just like throw my hands up sometimes and trust the process a little bit. In terms of like this conversation, it was so fun and it was not at all what I had expected, which I love when that happens. I love to be surprised. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope that everyone listening finds something, great out of it, finds some sort of nugget of wisdom that they can apply to their own lives. And I think it's going to be a really interesting listen.
Oh well, it's always an interesting listen around here for sure. And thank you so much for being on the show. What's the best way for our listeners? If maybe if they want to reach out, if they want to learn more, what's the best way to learn more and to reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can head to my website, which is mimir.ink, mimir.ink. That will have contact info. It will have all the key takeaways for all the episodes, all my links to social media, which is just at Hi Maddie Kelley, Kelley. They can reach me on Instagram. I am always happy to chat. If you want to jump on a call, I'm always available for 15 minutes. So feel free to shoot me an email, but that's all on my website.
Excellent. And don't worry, we, as usual, we are going to have that in the show notes for you, so you don't have to worry about grabbing a pen and paper and try to scribble that down. Well, Maddie, thank you so much for being on the show. And again, to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in once again. I'm sure that some of you got something useful out of this, as you always do. And just remember, if you can't find that motivation or inspiration for yourself today, maybe just go out and try to be that motivation and inspiration for someone else. And
Totally.
we'll see you again next time. Cool.
Thanks, Chris. That was awesome.
No, thanks. No, thanks, Maddie. It was great. And